I'll give you a couple seconds. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here on such a short notice. I want to introduce the people up here with me. My name is Max Dorsey. I'm the Sheriff of Chester County. This is Terry Tinker. He is the Chester County Coroner. And this is Paul Knight. He's a special agent with the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, commonly known as SLED. For the last approximately 11 days, our community has been searching for a missing lady named Donna Coley. She was reported missing to our agency on May the 31st. Her vehicle was found outside of the city of Chester abandoned, and so the family made a report to us on May the 31st that she was missing. Our investigators, along with various agents from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, have been actively and aggressively searching for her. There have been independent community efforts by family members and friends of hers looking for her diligently, to no avail until this morning. Our office received information to further this investigation, and our investigators were canvassing the areas around Pinckney Road, the bypass, and they were led to a location off of Cradle Street, which is off of Pinckney Street, and they found a deceased body. That body has been identified as Miss Coley, and so unfortunately that is not the result that we were looking for, but at that moment we were able to notify the family and explain to them that we had located Miss Coley. In furtherance of that investigation, I want to announce today that we have made an arrest in the murder of Miss Donna Coley. That arrest has been made. We've arrested Thomas W. Glenn, age 70. He resides on Hawthorne Road in Chester. Mr. Glenn has been booked into our detention center, and he is charged with 1 count of murder. Mr. Glenn has previous convictions from 1975, an armed robbery in which he served 15 years, a 1987 conviction in Chester for assault and battery, high and aggravated. He served an 18-month sentence. There have been other charges and arrest convictions that he's received since then, disorderly, public nuisance, things like that, but nothing certainly as significant as his criminal history back in the 70s and 80s, and certainly nothing rising to the level of this, as egregious as a murder. This is an ongoing investigation. It is very fluid. We are continuing to seek the public's cooperation and information. So if you have any information related to this investigation, please contact our office, 581-5131 or 385-5433. That's area code 803. Those are the two main points I wanted to bring out, but the third point is I want to talk a little bit about how difficult and just how difficult the investigation was. As many of you have seen, there's been a lot of talk on social media about where this lady is. There's been a lot of talk about what are we doing, what is law enforcement doing, are we doing enough, why aren't we doing this or that? And I want to make it perfectly clear, we don't put everything that we do on the internet. There are a lot of things that we put out there. We are transparent as the law enforcement agency. We want to keep the community informed. We want you to know what we are doing, but to the extent that it does not interfere with a criminal investigation. This is not TV. This is not CSI that comes on once or twice a week. This is real life police work, and it requires diligence, it requires expertise, it requires hard work, and it requires good luck. And so the men and women of the agencies that are represented up here today have worked nonstop looking for Miss Coley. And this is not the result that we wanted, but it is our job to bring charges where we can, to gather evidence and submit that to the prosecutor. We feel like we have a solid case on Mr. Glenn, although we have a lot of work to do. And so I cannot thank SLED, Paul Knight, his team, Lieutenant Lee Blackman, Matt Oliver, Preston Simpson. We had computer crimes involved. We had the SLED Fusion Center involved. I talk about them all the time. Of course, y'all know I have a soft spot in my heart for SLED because that's where I was born and raised, but they are some of the best, and we really appreciate their expertise and what they do for our community. The coroner, I can't say enough about this guy. He's been doing it for a long time. He's got more hair than I do, though, but he is the epitome of a public servant, and I'm proud to have him as a partner. He and his office have been over backwards from the moment we called him this morning, and they are going to great extents to make sure that all evidence is secured. There's a lot that his office has to do going forward. There's an autopsy scheduled for tomorrow, and so he and his office will be taking care of that. But I also want to brag about the Chester Sheriff's Office, the professionals that have been a part of this investigation from day one, from the patrol officers that got the information initially, the investigators that it was passed on to. Ladies and gentlemen, we have investigators that have worked this constantly, day and night, since we got this report. And regardless of what has been said in our community, regardless of what's been said on social media about what's the sheriff's office doing, well, even though we don't talk about it, we've been doing a lot. And this is the result of what happens when you just continue to do your job, just like these men and women do every day. So I want to thank those men and women that did that and that got us here today. Certainly Captain Crawford is the division commander. Lieutenant Wade Young is the department supervisor. Sergeant Chris Fowler is the department's direct supervisor. Dale Johnson, David Moore. Dale Johnson was the case agent on this, and he and Agent Knight, they're the ones, they're the boots on the ground. They're the ones that really put this together and got us to where we are today. So, you know, I want to emphasize social media is very helpful. It's been helpful to our agency, not just in this case, but in a number of cases. It keeps that word out there. It keeps the attention where it needs to be. But sometimes there's some bad consequences that come with that. And although sometimes we don't like to believe it, everything that's on the internet is not true. And so I would caution our community, I'd caution America to understand the ramifications of putting false information on social media and understanding how that could affect a criminal investigation. Because in the law enforcement world, we have to work on facts. We can't work on innuendo. We can't pursue things based on rumor. We have to have facts, and our job is to gather those facts and present them in a way to our prosecutor who can present that to a jury. And then we've got to get a an agreement by 12 members of our community to believe that it happened beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a high threshold. That's a high standard. And so that requires a lot of work by our men and women. So I would, that's one point that I would make. I'll ask the coroner, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Tomorrow we'll have an autopsy at 3:30. And what we want to do is make sure that we seal the deal for the sheriff's department and make sure that Mr. Glenn is prosecuted the way he should be. We will get that evidence tomorrow, and then we'll pass it on to the sheriff, and hopefully we'll be able to present those 12 people and convince them that, you know, Mr. Glenn needs to be kept where he's at.
That's right. Thank you. This investigation never stopped. It did not stop from the moment we got this information, we got this report, and it's not stopping today. So we've got a lot more to do. I'll be glad to answer any questions that I may be able to answer.
Was Mr. Glenn arrested before or after the discovery of this gold?
Mr. Glenn was, I'll say it almost, yeah, he was arrested after the body was found, but it was a very close time.
Can you say what led you to the trail?
Good hard work by our investigators.
Do you have a motive at this point for the crime?
I'll say that they knew one another, and they were together the night that she became missing, which was May the 30th. They were together, they knew one another, and some altercation occurred that led to her death.
How old was she?
I'll have to get you that information.
How old is
He is 70 years old. Mr. Glenn's 70 years old. 70, yes, sir.
Sheriff, what was the cause of death?
That's something that we're going to wait on the medical examiner and the coroner to determine.
Did you determine how long she had been there?
Our evidence indicates that she's been there since that evening, the night or the early morning hours of May the 30th.
And so none of the neighbors complained about anything unusual?
We've not gotten anything from those neighbors. No, sir.
You said hard work through your investigators. Was there a tip that was called in to say to go look in this area?
Yes, but it wasn't to that area. They got a tip this morning. They were kind of in the general vicinity, but they continued kind of in that area in more detail, and it led them to this location.
Y'all used cadaver dogs or anything?
We did not.
Just saw the body there.
That man and that investigator, yes.
Did you say the body was inside or outside?
It was inside of an abandoned trailer.
Autopsy tomorrow at 3:30. We get results, or we're sending the body off there at 3:30 tomorrow?
We'll get the results. We start the autopsy tomorrow at 3:30.
What time was her body found? Today.
About 11 or 12, around 11 or 12.
They were together the night she went missing. Do you know if they were at a bar or anything, or at his house?
They were in that area of Pinckney Street, the bypass, Cradle Street. Yeah, as the crow flies, that's probably a half a mile.
Sheriff, do you think there are any other suspects? Is that why you're asking people to call with information?
We're just wanting to make sure we've got all the evidence. We want to firm it all up. We do not think there are any other suspects, but again, we want to be open-minded and objective.
What is the exact address of this?
Cradle Street. I don't have the numerics. Yeah, we would not release the numerics of that. It's been our practice to just release the street.
Was this proceeding as a missing persons case until the body was found?
Yes and no. We approach this as a missing persons case, but you work it as if it's a crime, if it's a murder. So all those techniques and all the things that you do You know, from the get-go, we did not have any evidence that it was a crime, but you still work it like it's a crime.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Was Glenn on any kind of probation or anything?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
How long Glenn was out of jail before this incident? Can you say?
Like I said, he's had an extensive criminal record dating back to 1975. Criminal histories are difficult to read sometimes. I would encourage the media to maybe get a sled check on him, and you may be able to decipher some things from that better, because it's quite confusing. I will say he had a significant criminal history. He has Mr. Glenn has a significant criminal history.
You already had a bond hearing?
No. So because he's charged with a capital offense, his bond hearing will have to be held in front of a circuit judge. There will be some preliminary hearing, I believe, that's held in front of a magistrate, but that's essentially just to advise him of his rights, and he'll have to be waived up to the General Sessions Court. That will be coordinated through the solicitor's office.
If you can tell me off the top of your head, I don't know if Wanda has this information either, how many missing persons you guys have on the year and how many homicides you guys have on the year?
I'm happy to get you that information, Dawn.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I did not use this. There's his booking photo. And of course, that and Londa is releasing some information that I've said here, but in an official release right now.
Y'all don't have to have a picture of the man.
Miss Coley? No, but it's on Facebook.
Spelling of her name too?
Coley.
Donna.
Donna, yes.
Black
And
woman, white woman?
white female. I don't know her age. And then Thomas W. Glenn, age 70.
Glenn.
Glenn, yes. She was 56? Okay, Miss Coley was